Hey everyone, welcome to Wildlife Inspired. I'm your host, Scott Keys. Quick thoughts video today. What do we give and what do we take from nature and wildlife in our pursuit of photography? You're going to like this quick thoughts video. This one's going to make you think. So stay tuned right after this. I've been working with this concept for the last few weeks in my head, and I like these quick thoughts videos. These are not, by the way, I'm not going to teach you shutter speed. I'm not going to show you pretty images in this one. I break my videos into some categories, and this one is quick thoughts designed to make you think about your hobby or your profession of wildlife photography. In today's video, the concept, the quick thought is around what do we take from nature in our pursuit of wildlife photography, and do we give anything back? Now, I want to start this video with the following concept around our role as a species, so humans involved with wildlife. There's a quote. I'm gonna read you a quote from the Bible. Somebody sent me this quote, made me think a little bit. We went back and forth on this one, and it's literally a quote from the Bible. I want you to read this quote, see this quote with me. It says, "Be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth and subdue it." Read carefully. "And have dominion over the fish and seas and over birds of the air and over every living thing that moves upon the earth." And now, literally, quite literally, that could be interpreted as have dominion, dominance over your environment. Meaning, in the hierarchy of existence, humans are number one. Everything else is there to serve them. By the way, and I don't want to be stereotypical here, but there are cultures that believe that, and you can see that in the way that animals are treated in different parts of the world. So if you believe that our role is to be dominant over other things and that other things are only there to serve us, don't watch the rest of the video because it doesn't matter. Continue with your life. Maybe somebody will influence you another way, and maybe somehow you'll have a change of heart. But what I believe this to mean is not that we have dominance over the things around us, but that we are stewards of the things around us, of nature. The same way that giving a teacher dominion over a class doesn't necessarily mean a teacher has dominance over young students. What it means is those students, to me, those students are in the care of the teacher who is there to nourish and provide education for them. Okay, so the teacher serves the students. That's how I interpret that to be. Now, if you agree with me, if you agree that we are stewards of the earth and that the earth is not there to serve us, then we can get into the rest of the video. And the rest of the video is going to deal with this concept of what do we take. So I want you to think about this. This is again, these videos are designed to be thought-provoking. This is not a teaching moment. This is a make you think moment. And your participation in this is down in the comments. You let me know. Okay, you got a good point there. You made me think about some things. We have seen, by the way, as photographers, people who believe that the hobby of theirs, or maybe the profession, is there to serve them. I love birds. I love wildlife. At some point, I have to realize that my love of that, I take some stuff, I impact it some way to get what I like. That sounds pretty selfish. All of us as photographers, especially for wildlife photographers, we all might be a little selfish in the way that we love nature so much, we want to be a part of it. But does our presence in nature affect it? Let me give you some of the ways. So I went out on Instagram, I said, how do you negatively impact wildlife in your pursuit of photography? These were some of the things that came up. I broke these out. I'll put them over on the side. Number one was interrupt the wildlife itself. Now, this could be anything from feeding or nesting. Think about feeding. And there's a continuum here. And I'm not trying to say that every action we have has some terrible impact on nature, but we all have a footprint. We all make an impact. Do not tell me. If you could do this down in the comments, God bless you. I will argue with you on this one. Don't tell me that you have no impact on wildlife if you're a wildlife photographer. Now, you can be of the mindset of no footprints left behind, so minimizing that impact. But if you walk down a trail anywhere in the woods and there's sparrows feeding on the ground and they fly off like they always do, and they may regroup and feed again, but they're feeding on the ground. They're feeding down there. And as you walked that trail, you scared them away. You disrupted their feeding. Now, is it going to kill them? Probably not. They're probably going to regroup and start feeding again around you. But that impact was there, as small as it might be. That was an impact. Now, for other people, that impact could be much greater. We could disturb a raptor on prey in the pursuit of a photograph. Is the raptor going to die? Probably not, but a much greater impact, because if you can imagine, you just sat down for the only meal you're going to eat today and somebody ruined it, took away your food, well, that'd be pretty awful, wouldn't it? So the impact we have could be extremely minor, or it could be major. Probably not going to kill anything or disrupt its life cycle, but you don't know. Could also interrupt things like nesting. So if we are in a breeding area and we've disturbed the things that were breeding there, that could have a little bit more of an impact. You would hate to disrupt a whole cycle of mating and reproduction, and God forbid we destroyed a nest with eggs if we were a bird photographer or something like that. So yeah, those things could be a little bit greater. Is it going to eliminate the species? Probably not, but it could have an effect on the individual. So we do affect individuals. If we put up bird feeders, here's another example. We may spread disease. We may unknowingly, we may have the best intentions. Bird feeders, by the way, are not the greatest thing for birds. While we may give them food, it may come at a cost, because a lot of them are attracted to the same place and they can actually spread disease amongst each other. Video for a different day. I will tell you, as a native plant enthusiast, you want to feed the birds, minimize the bird feeders, and plant native plants that provide food for them. All right, off my soapbox on that one. We may habituate species. So another way we can impact them. And this seems so benign, because many people think, and this is a video topic I have to explore. Many people may think that my connection to the wildlife is a good thing. Look at how this deer feeds out of my hand, or look at how comfortable these animals are with me. I will tell you, habituating wildlife to humans, probably never a good idea. Different video, different day, but I want to put that over here. We may have an impact on the environment itself. We may destroy habitat. We may trample it. I'm guilty of this. Listen, there are times when, in pursuit of photography, I really want to be in a location and I'm going to get a little off the trail and I'm going to go into some grassland. Now, again, is it going to disrupt anything long-term? Probably not. There's deer trampling the same grass that I'm stepping in, but I have to recognize that I had some, although very small impact, I had a very minor impact. I took a little bit that day. We may even do things like spread invasive species. Now, again, I'm a plant guy, so I'm a wildlife photographer who loves plants. And I'll tell you, if you go on these trails, what you're going to see a lot along the edges of the trails, as you recognize native and invasive plants, there's going to be a lot of invasive things. And they got there often by human traffic. So we took invasive species and we've spread them into areas that they shouldn't be. Dense woods, uninterrupted woods, will typically not have invasive species. Trails cut through the woods, dirt roads cut through the woods, typically have a lot. And that's our cars and even ourselves spreading some of the seed around that it shouldn't be spread. Our dogs out on a walk can do that. So anyway, minor point, but something to think about. And one that a lot of people, I put up an Instagram poll, I asked about, how do you impact it? A lot of people said my carbon footprint. And this is a really good one, because I thought about it. How many miles a year do I drive for wildlife? It's in the thousands. So if I drive a couple thousand miles a year now I'm a semi-professional photographer. I have a full-time job. I do this on the side. But let's say I'm a hobbyist. It was very realistic when I was just doing this as a hobby that I would drive a couple thousand miles a year. Now, what did I get out of that? That's a negative impact that I had. Somebody sent me a quote. I thought it was really, really interesting. I want to pull it up for you. It was over on Instagram, and it was basically, we love wild things to death. And I skimmed over it and I came back to it and I said, wow, that's pretty deep. We love wild things to death. We love wild things at the cost sometimes of the wild things. And why do we do it? Now, for some people, you're a conservation photographer. You are doing something to biology, field biologist. You're studying, you're doing research. You may have a big impact positively. For a lot of us, we're trying to post pictures on social media. And so we have a negative impact. Now, here's what I'm getting at. This is not a video about Scott up on a soapbox preaching to you, trying to make you feel guilty for what you do. What I am challenging, or what I'm suggesting, is if we acknowledge that we are stewards of wildlife and that we are not dominant over it. That was kind of that first premise. And then we acknowledge, well, yeah, I mean, everybody takes something. We interrupt something, we interrupt a bird, we destroy a little habitat, we contribute carbon emissions into the environment. We do all this stuff. So here's the thing. Do you give back? Do you balance the scale? If there's a scale and I've said, okay, this is how much I take on this side, this is how much I've taken, can I give back a little bit and balance it out? Or could I even give more than I take? So let me give you some examples. I put this out on Instagram again. I love my Instagram polls. I get 400 or 500 people that answer these polls. So it gives me a pretty good sample size. And I get a lot of feedback. I got about 75 answers to this question. What do you give to the hobby? And here's what some of the answers were. And here's what you can do to balance the scale. So in this video, the intent is to make you think a little bit. And maybe the intent, my style is not to make you feel terrible about what you do and shame you into doing better. My style has always tried to be think. Just present an argument. Just engage in some conversation. Maybe engage in some debate. What do you take? And in this case, what could you give back? Here's what we came up with. Number one, donate. A lot of good organizations out there, but I will warn you, know the organization you're giving to. There's, with any nonprofit organization, some organizations are set up more like a business than a charity. Know where your money is going. A lot has been going on with kind of knowing that wildlife's a hot topic, knowing that people want to be generous and contribute. And so just know where you're giving that money and know how that money is being used. Typically, small organizations, local organizations, will often give a lot more of that money directly back into the community. So you can absolutely just donate money. It's a great way to give back, specifically if it's for the right use. Allow use of your work. We're photographers. Now, I have a rule. If you want my prints, you buy my prints. If you're a nonprofit around conservation, what do you need? I give that work away. My work with native plants is typically free. If you want information about native plants, can't tell you how many dozens of people I've just helped plant a garden or sent out something. That's how I'm giving back. I'll talk a little bit more about that, me personally, at the end, but allow your work, your knowledge to be shared. Allow your work to be used maybe by a good conservation effort or a good documentation or a good magazine, whatever it is. Allow people to use your work if it's appropriate. Volunteer time, this is a big one. There are so many ways to volunteer time, from rescues that might help wildlife to plant restorations or invasive removals, habitat restoration. There's so many ways to volunteer time. How much time do you spend in the field taking from it? And how much time do you volunteer giving back to it? Boy, that's a tough one. That is a tough one because I know wildlife photographers like myself who spend hundreds of hours a year collecting photographs. How much do I donate back? Oh, that's a tough one. That'll make you think. Sit on a board. You want to impact something? Find a local board. It can even be a board community-based. So a board of supervisors in your township. Boy, wouldn't it be great to have somebody that cared about wildlife sitting on the board of your local township? A lot of different boards to sit on, normally a volunteer position, but not always. So think about how you might have influence for those professionals out there, for those people that have been a long career and have a lot to give back skill-wise. Boy, sitting on a board would be just an amazing way to give back to the thing that we all say we love so much. Citizen science, donating information. So whether it's collecting, counting, organizing, there's so many tools out there. I'll list some of the tools that I've used in the past around citizen science, but it can be anything from like eBird to iNaturalist. Those are simple ways to just download information. Citizen science is a good way, and it's really effective when a lot of people get around it. This is going to be a little bit tougher to talk about because it gets a little, anytime you say the word vote, it gets a little political. If you care about a thing, vote that thing. I'm going to stay away from the politics of this. with just the general premise, because I did have this come back on my survey. A lot of people said, vote what matters to you. And if wildlife matters to you, if conservation matters to you, if habitat and ecology and all those things matter to you, you got to vote that way, right? So think about that as well. Report issues. So when you see something out in the environment that's not right, something that's not proper, report it to the correct authorities. And somebody made an example like dogs off leash in a bird sensitive area. Not a good idea. Report that so it gets reinforced. So reporting to the proper authorities, also mentioned on this list of Instagram feedback. Sharing your influence on social media. So listen, a lot of us are on Facebook or Instagram or whatever, but putting words out to people that might not realize it. There's a great way to attract interest in nature and wildlife by doing it subtly. I have always thought that if people believe my images are beautiful, hopefully, if they believe my pictures are beautiful, maybe I can influence and sneak some messages in there. I equate this to when I was raising my boys and I would want them to eat good food, so I would kind of sneak it in there. I do this with my bird photography. I try to present something pretty and then subtly sneak in some messages that might attract some friends, and maybe they come over for drinks one night and my neighbors, and I can talk a little bit about some of that stuff that's going on in the environment. So I hook them with the pretty images, but I try to follow it up with some messaging. So just messaging around friends and social media can be very, very important. A lot of people mention this. If you do nothing else, take a bag with you, a biodegradable bag, and just pick up trash when you're out in the woods. There's so many times we're out in the woods and we've disrupted the sparrows a little bit. We've influenced some things we probably shouldn't have. We stepped on something we shouldn't have. Wouldn't it be great just to simply bend over and pick up the trash in the parking lot on our way out? What an easy way to balance the scale. And the last one I'll put on here is just make environmentally sound choices when possible. There's a lot of things. We're all consumers. If you're watching this video from the United States of America, I'm a consumer. I got all this stuff back here I bought. I got shirts and clothes and all the camera equipment, bought all that stuff. Some people have suggested that making better environmental choices is also a nice way to give back. And that's my video. That's it. The premise is simple. Down in the comments, here's what I'd like to know. Do you agree with this idea of us being stewards over nature? Or, maybe there's one or two people out there that believe, nope, I'm top of the food chain. I'm the human. Bible told me I have dominion over the fish and the birds and the sea. So therefore they serve me. I don't have to give back. I am allowed to take. If you believe that, make an argument down in the comments. I'll listen to it. If you believe we're stewards, do you agree that we take, which I think I've made a pretty compelling argument that everybody takes something, but are you willing to think about the idea of giving back? How much do you give back? Are you conscious of this? Have you, previous to watching this video, been consciously thinking about what I can give back? And I told you I would tell you a little bit about what I've tried to do over the years. In the beginning, I took more than I give back. I do believe I'm at a point where I give back more. Not always in the time of volunteering and money. My efforts have all been around native plants, spreading the word, trying to get other people involved in it. And I spend as much time gardening in the spring and summer as I do shooting wildlife photography. I am just really involved in trying to create an environment where people can come over and I can talk to them and I can talk about the 200 species of native plants that I have and how good they are, and show them some of my insect pictures and get them thinking about maybe I don't need to use insecticides on my property, and maybe I can devote a little bit of my property to native plants, and maybe I don't need to kill the mice out in my yard with insecticides or rodenticides or use pesticides on my lawn. Like, maybe I can do some of that. Now, if I'm successful in that journey, if I'm successful in any of that, my scale is looking real good because I know I'm taking and I'm conscious of that. I know I interrupt wildlife. And there's many ways that I do it. I have been more conscious over the last several years to say, how can I start to give back? So donating works to nonprofits. I mentioned that. I do that. I try to do a lot of influence on social media, and both with, locally with my neighbors, even the people I work with. They probably get sick of me talking about it sometimes. There are certainly ways that you can balance your scales. And there's actually a lot of ways. If you minimize the impact, there's so many easy ways to give back. You can tip those scales and just make this whole wildlife photography thing feel a little bit better for yourself. So again, let me know down in the comments if you liked it. If you like these quick thoughts videos, not all of my content is quick thoughts videos. I do some educational pieces. I do just some product reviews, do a lot of different videos. There's playlists down there. You can check them out, but you got to be subscribed to the channel. You also need to hit that like button. If you thought this was thought-provoking, hit the like button. That'll force the algorithm to allow other people to see this and think about it themselves. And that's my video for today. So thanks for tuning in, as always, and I hope we can continue to find inspiration in wildlife together.